Okay, here we are, the second week of The Walking Dead. In case you still living under a rock and you don't know what The Walking Dead is, and you don't know who any of these people in the picture that's good English from an author. These are the front two characters there are Rick and Carl Grimes, two of the main characters in AMC's hit show The Walking Dead. Welcome back. I am, of course, author E.A. Lake, and on the other side of the screen over there,
That would be me.
son number two,
Here again.
affectionately known as TW. Or should we tell people what that means, or probably not? It won't help.
I don't plan on telling people what it means necessarily. I'm gonna let them just stew.
Okay. I guess they can always email me to find out, ealake5@gmail.com. So, problems with The Walking Dead. Problems abound everywhere with The Walking Dead. And one of really just saying The Walking Dead brings the first problem to mind. What is The Walking Dead? Who are The Walking Dead? Because I always assumed, and TW, I'm sure you did too,
Oh yeah.
that The Walking Dead were speaking of the zombies.
Well, I thought it was such a great phrase of what I mean. Honestly, it's the most simplified term. I mean, without causing a major panic, you say the dead are walking, so they would be the Walking Dead, and therefore that's the zombies naturally.
Exactly.
I think that you in our discussion a little bit ago, you brought up a really good point though with what Rick said to Glenn. I mean, like, and that just kind of not gonna say blew my mind, but it was a big like, oh, ding.
Well, and that was early in season 5 where Rick says to Glenn while they're hiding, cowering in the barn, if you will, "We are the Walking Dead." And that's my best Rick Grimes imitation. That's an imitation of a Brit doing a Southern English accent. So I mean, there's the first thing. I guess you have to decide, who are the Walking Dead, and are they the zombies, or are they actually the people that can never sleep because if they do, a zombie might get them?
Yeah, I mean, that is, I mean, the major thing about the title is the fact that it's a good discussion to have. It's a fun one to have, you know. Oh, well, does it refer to the zombies? Does it refer to the people who are constantly on the move? It's just
There's a
one of those things.
there is a duplicity to it. Now, the second problem with The Walking Dead, and it's really not a problem with the show or with the comic, with the graphic novel, excuse me, but it's, who do we trust? It just always made me feel uncomfortable with the show because, I mean, for instance, the first thing that always comes to mind is Woodbury, season 3, I believe, seemed really nice. The governor seemed, well, you knew there was something off with him, but he seemed nice. But that wasn't the case.
Well, I mean, every leader in these, dystopian futures, this post-apocalyptic type world, is going to have their little quirks. His quirks were just a little bit more extreme than others. He likes to keep zombie heads and keep his little zombie daughter hanging out in the closet.
Well, you can't blame everyone. Everyone's got to have a hobby, even in the apocalypse, right? But then, one of the characters that I really liked and that I always hoped would do better was Bob. But Bob had his own problem, and that was a real problem in their situation.
Well, I mean, Bob, let's face it, Bob was an army medic, so he's got the skills. He's exactly who you think you're going to want in this type of situation. He's got, enough medical training to be, extremely useful, not overly, but extremely useful for what you're normally going to incur, because any fatal wound is going to kill you anyway and turn you into a zombie. Not to mention he has that discipline. He's used to doing things in that nature. He's used to handling weapons, things like that. And all of a sudden you got you go out on a run with him, and all of a sudden you realize, oh, I'm dealing with a dude who, hey, we're out here getting medical supplies, and he's off searching for booze all
Yeah,
the time.
yeah. Bob wanted to stop for cocktail hour. This is water, of course. Bob wanted to stop for cocktail hour every chance he got, and that got people in trouble. That got people killed.
Oh, it did. And it made him too much of a liability for him to live nearly as long as he did, in my opinion.
Well, yes, that's true. He did exist quite long in the show. It's probably, except for the governor. one of the troublemakers that really ran the longest, I think.
True.
Then, of course, who to trust? Don't even start it with Terminus with me. Don't even get me started, because that was all wrong from minute one.
I don't. If you didn't see the first time they showed one of those signs and have just the worst feeling in the world in your gut, just a terrible really? Like that's a really big thing. Like people who were surprised when Rick stashed the guns before they went in, I was like, why are you shocked by that? You stashed some guns. I'm surprised he didn't have half the group stay outside with freaking weapons trained.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Which brings us, of course, to problem 3, Rick Grimes himself.
Oh, Rick.
He's quite a complicated character. In season 1 and 2, we saw, I would say pretty solid thinking, caring, problem-solving, the leader, Rick Grimes.
Almost like a father of the group, kind of, is how he wanted to lead.
That's right. But at the end of season 2, as you pointed out last week, we saw a different part of Rick Grimes.
The best Rick Grimes, in my opinion, my way or the highway, which in this situation is what you have to be sometimes.
That's true. But hey, Rick, make up your mind. Which are you going to be okay, let's talk about this kind of leader, let's work this out, or it's going to be, let's do it, people.
Well, exactly. And then, you got reluctant leader, which blew my mind because I was like, you were so confident.
Farmer Rick Grimes. Me and my boy, we're gonna farm out here, Herschel. We're not gonna worry. There I am doing my famous Rick Grimes imitation again. I couldn't take it. But then in season 4...
No. Hold on, though. Farmer Rick Grimes, who, let's not forget, is insane at the time, too.
Oh, that's right, because he was getting phone calls from...
Oh, I don't know. Dead lady, Lori. Huh.
Wife, who was dead. I thought I had miswatched the episode before that when all of a sudden the phone's ringing and he's talking. I'm like, is this a flashback? And how are the phones working again?
The phone's working. I was kind of like, well, maybe it was on a different power system. Like some phones used to be independently powered. Like I was like, and then all of a sudden I was like, that voice is way too familiar. Oh, of course. But then, as you said, in season 4, you see psychopath leader / I'm not going to lead.
Rambo on a rampage. Rick Grimes.
I was all about it. I wanted him to kill everybody. So.
Well, there were some bad people there. And Daryl was conspicuously missing or involved with the bad people, sort of. So. Yeah,
I think that was the hardest. The hardest part for a lot of people was seeing that and being like, well, what's Daryl doing?
Well, and you have to think, how does Rick Grimes' humanity come back to him after that? That's just kind of a problem in my mind. But then, no problem in season 5. He's Sheriff Rick Grimes again when they get to Alexandria.
There were so many things about Alexandria, just little things that I was just like, not really liking it. But Rick Grimes, he was a jack of all trades again. Let's be honest here.
Well, you said one of your favorite scenes was the final scene in season 5. We'll talk about that in a few minutes.
We'll get to that.
Of course, you can't talk about, there's problem 3.1, I'll call it. You can't talk about Rick Grimes without talking about Carl, his son. Is that graphic showing up there, TW?
Oh, yeah. And I love it. I do.
That would be Lori, and I can't think of her name right now, her real name. Yeah, don't you dare question my parenting. Oh, crap, where's Carl? Carl causes more deaths than the plague,
I see, and I hear what you're saying on that, but we see these little things of Carl that make you think, okay, you got this, Carl. You got this. These little moments, his moment where he just was gonna take out walkers for no reason, like, hey, we really don't have the ammo for you to be wasting. Not, oh, we don't need to be killing these things, like everybody else was trying to be like, but you don't need to kill them. No, we need to kill him. You need to kill him silently, boy. Stop wasting all the ammo.
Yeah, yeah. Now, that leads us, and I guess a lot of things lead us a lot of places with The Walking Dead. And it, trust me, I mean, I can't think of the guy's name who hosts The Talking Dead that's on right after the show on AMC.
Oh,
yeah. Chris Hardwick or Hardwin or someone like that. Sorry.
I think so. I've watched it. Very good show. I like it.
Very good show. So, I mean, you know, these two 15, 20-minute videos we're doing about it don't even scratch the surface of this show and all the talk that goes on about it with the new deadheads, if you will. But we've, as I mentioned previously, just like George R.R. Martin's Game of Thrones, The Walking Dead is not shy about getting rid of characters. And we have several favorites each, of course.
Oh, yes, naturally.
I'll let you start.
Well, let's see. Major characters who died that needed to die, in my opinion. Lori.
Man, we're going to agree to disagree there because I think Lori was the poor, afflicted, loving wife that just was misunderstood.
The only thing better than Lori biting it was when Shane died.
Yeah, that was pretty true.
That was a pretty good one, though.
What about the ones that grabbed our hearts, like Andrea in Woodbury?
Oh yeah, Andrea going down because you were so confident she was gonna make it out of there, and her character had come such a long way.
She was tough. She was one tough lady.
And she went from being kind of like almost like, you know, like, well, what do you really bring to the group, to being like, you're a major player in the group.
Yep.
And then
don't forget Dale.
It's hard and Dale's hard because as soon as Dale died, pretty much they replaced him with our next favorite old person, Herschel,
who also died.
Heartbroken when Herschel. That one tore me apart.
That was a tough one.
Oh, that was so hard.
Not half as much as Herschel's daughter, Beth.
Oh, wow.
That was a tough show. That was a tough show to watch. That was
that death alone was a debate amongst itself. I think my wife and I talked about it for maybe an hour and a half after that episode of Who Killed Her.
Well, not only that, I read a lot of blogs and a lot of articles online where people were, by the hundreds, I don't know, maybe thousands, I don't know, they were screaming, "That's it, not watching the show anymore. Beth is gone. I don't care." Beth, you know, represented, of course, innocence and loving and caring and blah, blah, blah. But it was a tough one.
But people like that are going to die in this situation.
Yes, people are going to die.
She never just toughened up enough, and she wasn't close enough to any of the... She was getting there with Daryl. If her and Daryl had gotten closer the season before, I think it would have been almost impossible for them to kill her off because they would have been such a perfect balance. But they weren't that close. She didn't really have that overt protector that she needed to have in this kind of situation.
Nope. Although she did prove she could take care of herself there.
Oh, yeah.
Just the unfortunate victim of circumstances, if you will, and the show's writers. So that leads us to the last thing, the why questions. And we're just going to cover a couple of these. I always ask, why did Lori have to die? As if I'm not hiding it, I thought Lori was a good character. I loved Lori.
Get rid of her. I was all happy about it. Oh, I don't know. Cheating mistress, whatever you want to call it. I just didn't think she brought as much to the plate as you did. She was the major tie that brought Rick to it, and Rick is, of course, our all-around leader, so she served her purpose, kill her off. I was fine with that.
Well, and that leads me to, why did Rick ever trust Shane? I mean, geez, go back.
Yeah, you know, and even when they show, like, the before scenes, because I recently rewatched Season 1, Episode 1.
Oh.
Him and Shane are sitting there talking, and Shane's kind of a scumbag. He's just kind of a scumbag, like, of a person. And it's not a lot of scenes that you see with him and Rick's family, but you can tell that he has something for Lori the whole time.
I thought so. I haven't rewatched Season 1, although I watched it twice because your mother had to watch it the first time, so I had to rewatch it with her in case it was too scary.
That was a good season, though.
That was a good season. Why did anyone ever trust the governor? I mean, I know you say that's just the way that character is going to look in a situation like that, but
I wouldn't even go so far as to say why would anyone trust the governor. It's just in this situation, you need to be completely apprehensive of any leader of any group that you come across. When people meet the group and they're all like, "Oh, we want to join your group," I think the first thing I would be asking is, why is this psychopath Rick leading y'all around? You know what I mean? But then once you get to know the group, you realize like his dynamic is what is needed for that group to function, and he is their leader. And not every group's going to be perfect, but Woodbury would have been way more successful if the governor hadn't been crazy, because he was crazy and it was very successful for a good amount of time. But if he had just like not gone off on the warpath,
right? If he hadn't
declared just got randomly killed, he was randomly killing people for no reason. Is the thing?
Yeah.
Like that army group that he killed, no reason to do that.
And the answer to this next one, why is Daryl not really a leader in some way? It kind of answers itself because he's Daryl. Daryl doesn't want to be a leader.
No, Daryl is 100%. He doesn't want to be a leader, and honestly, the only reason Daryl was with that group for so long in the first place, before he started to care and be part of the group, was to look for Merle.
That's true. That's true.
It was the reason he stuck around. It was the reason he was there. And then, nope, Merle's gone, and now he's a part of the group, and what's the last thing we can say is, hey, if that's what Daryl's role is going to be, if that's what his lot's going to be, then that's what it is.
One of the best lines of the series came at the farm when the zombies were attacking at the end of season 2. And Herschel says, "Are we going to fight here? Are we going to stand and fight? You're going to take a gun or whatever?" I forget exactly what he said. And Daryl looked around and said, "Well, I guess this is just as good a day as any to die."
Daryl's just that guy who you want with your group.
Yeah. And my last really big why question, why are there no zombie-free zones?
And you and I have talked about this, and I honestly can say that. Think about it in a realistic sense, and I know a lot of people are going to hate on me just for making that statement because they're like, zombies aren't real, zombies can't be real, blah, blah, blah. Forget that for a minute and just pretend that the world happens. A zombie plague starts up. How long is it going to be before your everyday person believes that it's actually zombies?
No, that's true.
Most of them, it's going to be after they're bit.
Yeah.
Even you got to think about it. Even in a lot of other zombie movies, it's when it starts out, like people are like, "You'll never understand. Like this crazy homeless person just tried to bite me."
Yeah. Well, and that's actually happened. We've had
exactly. I mean, look,
zombies before. But.
Yeah. But and that's where you run into the why there are no zombie-free zones. Because I honestly don't think we have enough of a population to have a zombie-free zone.
Well, I've always assumed that we're looking at like a 75% zombie, 25% non-zombie, Walking Dead, if you will, split.
And I completely disagree, and I say that we're somewhere between 90-10 or 95-5 with that many zombies, just because I think it would take so many populations by surprise, and it would take so much of a reaction, because even the government, let's be honest, the government's not going to react that well to it.
And they're going to deny it for a long time.
Well, I mean, they're going to deny it as long as they can, because like they want to have it when they actually have to confront it. They're going to want to have an answer for that, and that's going to take a bit to try and do.
That's true. That's true. Well, in conclusion, I think this has been a great series based on a very, very good graphic novel.
Oh, yes.
I think sometimes it gets a little wild, a little off track. Sometimes I think we've seen characters. I won't call it the Stannis sin that I saw in season 5 of Game of Thrones. We'll talk about that in August. But and if you've seen Game of Thrones, you understand what I mean. Stannis Baratheon kind of does stuff that isn't in his character that you've grown to know for 5 seasons. But I don't see a lot of that, although I see Rick Grimes kind of going like that back and forth and back and forth. But I see a man that goes between sanity and insanity at the flip of a light switch, too.
Well, and I still say that the Rick Grimes, his jumping around, it's a little understandable. It's a little understandable because of what he's going through. He's trying to get a handle on himself, and I think that season 5, Rick Grimes, where a lot of people are going to say you're kind of getting to see a lot more Psycho just based on how it ended, I will say he has actually found that decent balance finally, where he knows times where he's got to be over the top, and he knows times where he's got to be trusting, he knows times where he's got to not trust anyone. And for the majority, you got to not trust anyone, let's face it.
Let's see. It wraps up with, shoot him, Rick. He pulls his gun, doesn't hesitate, and shoots the guy. While everyone looks on.
Best ending ever. And let's not forget the reintroduction of the guy who saved his life in season 1.
Whose name eludes me at this point.
I'll never remember it, but he's
Never
one of
remember
those that I'm just not sure about, because it's just one of those things where he's like, we don't have to lose our humanity. And I'm sorry, but humanity is gone at this point, in my opinion.
That's true. Yeah, and that was his friend's whole thing.
Yep.
I would give the show a 5-star rating. I think the acting is outstanding. I think they made the zombies very realistic. I think they have good storylines.
I think they even had a great way of making the negative characters. You get attached to them too, you know?
Yeah, they had characters that were truly three-dimensional, and obviously on TV that's a lot easier. But for all of the main characters, they didn't lack depth at all.
No.
So that's it. The Walking Dead in 2 easy episodes. I suppose we took almost almost an hour of time doing it, but heck, that's just 2 Talking Dead shows, and there's one after every single episode, and there's been like 50, 60 episodes of The Walking Dead so far. So, anything to add before we call it a night, son?
I will honestly say just one more time, if you have been living under a rock and you are looking for that next show to get hooked on, you have seen a lot of spoilers if you watched this, but The Walking Dead is one of those shows that give it that first episode. That first episode doesn't grab you, give episode 2 a try, because all of a sudden you're going to be hooked.
I'd even go, because season 1 is, if I'm not mistaken, season 1 only has 6 episodes. Give all season 1 a try.
Oh, season 1's so good.
Season 1, so you just rewatched it. So, until middle of August, when you're actually not in Virginia, you're here in Minnesota.
Yep.
Where you and I will discuss 2 episodes, there'll be 2 episodes of us discussing
Game of Thrones.
Also known as Which Way is Westonarius. Until that time, I'm EA Lake.
And I'm TW.
Have a great evening, and thanks for watching.